Oh, this could be an opening. The man they want to have the opening. It's Lawrence Shankland. That is the moment. The moment of matters.
Welcome back to Hearts and Sleeves podcast, the podcast all about Heart of Midlothian Football Club, its fans, and all the ups and downs we experience on the way. This week we are travelling back momentarily to 2012. It was the year of the Gangnam Style. It was the year where President Barack Obama got re-elected. It was also the year of the London 2012 Olympics. And it was also the year for Hearts, where they managed to beat, I think there's a big footballing occasion what happened with Hearts in 2012, but the main one that's jumping to mind right now was it was the last time that Hearts beat Rangers at Ibrox in the top flight. Yep, we've been waiting 13 years for that to happen again. Not exactly new for Derek McInnes, though. He's become the first ever manager to beat Rangers with 4 different clubs. And we're going to talk about that as well as reflect on Hearts' team of new and Hearts' teams of old, as well as looking at all the current news that's happening around Tynecastle, both on and off the pitch. I'm joined today by Adam. Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's been a great week, thanks, Jamie. What about yourself?
Well, I was at Ibrox, so I had a pretty damn good week. So let's just dive straight into it. Why not? So Rangers, they were unchanged from their draw with Celtic. It was a poor game, but Rangers probably were the better of the two teams, so you can understand probably why they didn't change too much. Obviously, a big talking point for them was Raskin missing. There's been quite some bizarre rumours about why he's absent, and they are just rumours, I hasten to add. But they are quite fantastic if you can find them anywhere on Twitter. Rangers with a really young midfield as well, I noticed. Their oldest is 23 and their youngest is 17. So a fairly sort of inexperienced midfield. Our lineup was a bit of a... I feel we always go into Rangers games with a slightly strange lineup. I guess this wasn't one of our weirdest ones, considering what we've had in the past, particularly under Neilson. But yeah, we definitely had a bit of back and forth trying to figure out who fit in where. I was also speaking to Alan from the Fantastic Since I Was Young podcast as the lineup came out, and he was equally confused and trying to put it all together. However, it ended up being something a bit like this. So back four, Kingsley, Finlay, Halkett and McEntee. In midfield, familiar. It was Devlin and Beningame. Good to see Kizaridis getting a start on the left wing. Then interestingly, we had Harry Milne on the right wing. Braga and Shankland up front. Your thoughts, Adam?
So obviously the big talking point was Harry Milne playing on the right wing, which was a bit of a shock. But I was actually quite happy to see 4-4-2. I was quite happy with, Shankland and Braga. Felt fairly positive, even if there was, a little bit of confusion about the Milne decision. I still felt like it wasn't like the other times when like guys like Braga had been left out and you felt a lot of disappointment. I thought it was I thought it looked like a decent team. So yeah, no, I honestly felt fairly positive with it, given our options available.
Yeah, and I think just looking at it, there's actually quite a decent bit of experience there. Devlin and Beningame, I know, we've all talked about whether they do work in midfield or not, but at the end of the day, they've had so many games in midfield that they're pretty well versed in what to expect from one another. And then you've got Kingsley, Finlay, Halkett. They're all pretty used to the Scottish game. McEntee, again, he's obviously had a bit of experience, but he gives a bit of something else. He's still quite an imposing figure. Then you've got Shankland, who is well versed at Ibrox in the Scottish game. But our attacking options still a bit sort of got a bit of punch about it, even though it's not as experienced. Kizaridis, Braga and Milne, all offering something different, all got a bit of technical ability and pace. So yeah, it was, even though it was a bit unusual, it was certainly one I was looking forward to seeing. McInnes beforehand said, we've got to act like a team who are used to winning here. We've got to act like a team that are used to winning week in, week out. Hearts came out and really kind of dominated things, and it was within 6 minutes we had the first real clear-cut chance. It was a set piece that isn't dealt with properly. Came back to Halkett, but he heads over from 10 yards. Should have done better maybe with it, Adam. What do you think?
I think the main thing was just seeing us have a positive start, and I think just on a slightly different note, I think coming into this game, I think the only thing that really caused any fear was just our record historically at Ibrox. I think if you look at how both teams have done this season, in some ways Hearts are almost like the favourites for this match, and I think coming out and getting an early chance like that maybe kind of set the tone for the rest of the match, and I think that was encouraging. Felt like we were going for it. We weren't just out there to sit back and defend and try and get a draw, which is what we have done in the past sometimes at Ibrox.
Yeah, and just going back to that quote from McInnes, where he's just talking about we've got to act like a team we're used to winning here. You can tell what mindset he wanted us fans to have, so you can imagine what the dressing room was like beforehand. And McInnes as well, he's someone who's gone to Ibrox and got results with Killian Aberdeen. So he's exactly one of the managers that when we were looking at all the different ones, he was one of the ones I just thought, well, if anything, I know he's someone who could possibly break that hoodoo at Ibrox. And Braga came in and caused a lot of problems. We continued to look dominant and very comfortable on the ball. I don't think Rangers really got a sniff until around 25 minutes. There was a loose pass that found its way towards Gassama, but he basically completely fluffed his lines. And it was very shortly after this that Hearts got their goal, a controversial one, but I'll let you talk this one through, Adam.
So obviously, the ball comes through to Shankland. Looks like it hits off his hand, and then plays it through to Braga, and then a nice little pass and a brilliant finish from Shankland as well. I mean, I think the main thing for me from that was just seeing Braga and Shankland link up so well again, because that seems like it's going to be a good partnership. I think with the handball incident, honestly, I don't really care, because we've gone to how many times over the years have we played Rangers
Totally.
and had absolutely tons of dodgy decisions against us. So my personal take at the moment is, you kind of make your own luck, and I think we've got that momentum, we've got that team spirit, and sometimes you just get away with it. And even without that kind of decision, I think we could have won anyway. So I don't really care if it was a handball or not. What I would say is it was an excellent move and very confident and tidy finish from Shankland. And seeing him and Braga link up so well was just very encouraging as well.
I'm glad you've sort of focused on the goal itself rather than the run up to it, because that's almost kind of what's been lost within all this. Was it handball or whatever? It was just such a clever finish from Shankland, and Braga did fantastic to hold the ball up and get it across to him. Yeah, I mean, look, we can't not talk about the fact. I mean, Shankland came out afterwards and said it hit my hand. You could see him after the goal, and it was very muted celebrations. If you could barely even call it celebrations, they're so muted because just you can see him just saying it hit my hand. I think part of it was there's a couple of things. It kind of hit his chest before it hit his arm, I think, from the replay looking back at it. But also it's something to do with the second phase of play, so I think VAR wasn't able to come into it. Either way, as you say, who gives a shit? We've had so many opportunities in the past that haven't gone our way, and Rangers have had so many that have gone their way. So we'll take it, and yeah, it was a very nice finish from Shankland. There was a reaction, but it wasn't huge actually after the goal. Hearts controlled things really well. There was a couple. It wasn't until just before half time actually the Rangers seemed to get a couple of opportunities. Majovski, who I thought looked a shadow of his Aberdeen days, he kind of headed towards Folov. Look, it's partly due to the fact I just he had a pretty bad season by all counts and purposes whilst he's away from Aberdeen. But also, Halkett, I want to just give him a big shout out here. He was incredible, absolutely fantastic. He's our best centre back for me. What are your thoughts on Halkett and Finlay as a back pairing?
Yeah, I think it's excellent. I mean, I think Halkett's always had the ability. There was just doubts over his injuries, but I think that was, he's one of the best players against Rangers, and I think Finlay is obviously a really solid defensive partner for him. But yeah, thought Halkett was absolutely brilliant against Rangers. So if he can stay fit, I think he'll have a great season. It's just about fitness with him, really.
Definitely. Asgard also hit the crossbar. I'm not sure if it was meant to be some sort of cross or if he actually was having a shot. Either way, it thundered the crossbar, and it was a bit of a marvel of a save from Shvolov. Half time then, there was no change for Hearts, not surprising at all. And how often do we actually get the chance to say that? No change for Hearts at half time. Rangers made a couple of substitutions, as you might have expected. Rangers did finally, I don't know, maybe about 20 minutes into the second half, get themselves far more into the game. Ant-Man, Asgard, Gassama, Cornelius, they all had chances. It was actually this point, I remember just sitting down because I couldn't bear it. I just thought, this isn't going to go our way after all. And it's just that feeling of disappointment. I think also the other thing I forgot to mention to you, Adam, is just that feeling after the first goal. It was as much relief as anything else because it was just, we've had so many good performances against Rangers over the years where we'd perform well but just not actually get a goal for our effort. So my celebrations was relief as much as anything. You know me, I'm always optimistic during games, right? I never think of the worst case scenarios as messaging you all doom and gloom. And
Well, I've got to say this. I was probably the most doom and gloom because I I hate watching matches at Ibrox or Parkhead when you're kind of watching it from home. It's just I'm so used to seeing us lose. I was panicking a bit in the second half. The thing is, like, I think the panic just came from. I don't think the panic really came from what was happening in the match. It just came from, like, we're playing at Ibrox. There's still a bit of that. But no, I think I was probably the worst at the weekend for just thinking they were going to score. But I think that was just that little spell in the second half. Ultimately,
yeah.
yeah, it didn't come to much.
But they did get the ball in the back of the net. They did get one. And, I've heard a lot of people say, there's about 3 really controversial decisions in this game. A lot of people said this is the most clear-cut one that shouldn't have stood. The referee's decision. I totally, right. I appreciate, as usual, I'm coming in with my maroon-tinted glasses, whatever you like to call them. What's your thoughts on it before I give my thoughts, Adam? So...
Well,
yeah.
I'm kind of guessing what yours are based on that intro. I mean, for me, Shvolov's got, like, pretty lucky because I would say out of the three that was the dodgiest because he's doing as much pushing as anyone else. I think he looked, whether or not it was a foul, I do think he looked a bit shaky. Yeah, I think he had a good game, but I do think he looked a bit shaky in that incident and was a little bit lucky that the whistle was blown and it wasn't given. I think those ones can go either way. They can go either way, and the goalies often get protection in that situation. But I've got to say, if that was against us, I'd have been raging because you see him push the Rangers guy away before there's any real contact from them. But again, like, I don't care. It's I think it was just, yeah, for me it was almost the dodgiest of the three, to be honest.
Yeah, and that seems to be the common perception. I think because was it Asgard? I think it was.
Yeah.
Whoever the Rangers player was, he kind of shoves his hand across Svolov's throat, I think, or neck. And to me, that's kind of the point where there's a couple of different angles. So one of them, yeah, it looks proper 50-50. Another one, it does to me seem like Asgard's sort of the slightly more aggressive one out of the two. And I think it's just the nature and the style of the push.
I'm just actually watching the back, and I see what you mean. The
Yeah.
first thing that happens is actually his hand goes on his throat, which actually I
Yeah.
didn't properly notice when I watched it the first time. So yeah, that probably is the reason. That probably is the reason it was ruled out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think. What I would say is I don't think any of the decisions were like unbelievably like
Yeah.
awful. I just think they were on another day they could have gone the other way basically. But yeah, I do see that now actually. He's just a bit shaky when he's trying to get, whether or not he got pushed, whatever happened, it was a slightly kind of flaps around going for the
Yeah.
ball.
And like, whether you want to say we had luck where it came to decisions, it wasn't a lucky result for us. We might have had the rub of the green whereas decisions are concerned, but I don't think you'll hear too many Rangers fans come out and try and argue the result, because I do feel on the first half's performance and most of this, at least half the second half's performance, we were the better team and at least controlled things. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think any talk of the decisions is a distraction from what was a very good win and a pretty comfortable win.
yeah,
And I think I still feel like we would have won whatever happened there. I just just the spirit of the team in that. I don't think it's not one where you get like a dodgy last minute penalty and you beat them. Rangers had plenty of time to do stuff in that game. So yeah, I think it was a comfortable win, and whatever you think of the decisions, we deserved it in my opinion.
well, we'll certainly come on to dodgy last-minute penalty decisions when we talk about other team results. But as far as this match goes, much else really to cover other than, of course, the second goal for us, because Rangers after that, they just kind of looked like they had the stuffing knocked out of them. Their attacking threat really just dried up. Contentious decision or not for the penalty, Adam? What do you think?
It's one of those ones I've watched back a lot. It's hard to see much contact, but I'm just watching it again actually.
Yeah, I think one thing when you're watching it back, it's difficult in the replay to really get a sense of it. You think about where the referee's positioned and just the speed that he's going in at. When we saw it in real time, obviously all of us are calling for it. I have to say, you could see quite a few Rangers fans with their hands on their head as well after it, which is always a bit of a telling sign. It's one of those things when you watch it on TV, you'll break it down a lot, and I suppose that's kind of what VAR is for, right? But certainly watching it there didn't really seem too many people doubting that it was a penalty, and we were quite close to it as well.
I mean, I think I heard someone else say this. I think Scott on Scarves in the Funnel, but I would say it's one of those ones that if the ref gives it, VAR doesn't overturn it. If the ref doesn't give it, VAR probably doesn't intervene and change it. It's one of those sort of
totally
really marginal ones. Where there's so I think he doesn't win the ball, that's for sure. It's just how much contact he makes is unclear, but I think Milne's momentum just takes him down. I don't even think it's like a dive or anything. I think he just goes down from that. And just again, happy getting a penalty at Ibrox, because that's not always certainly not always the case.
They're as rare as wins there for us, pretty much.
Yeah, well, at the moment that could change.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
And Shankland's penalty, look, it wasn't the best, but who cares, because he put it right back in the net afterwards. Obviously, away end going mental. I think I ended up, so I was one of those ones making a charge to the front after it went in. Ended up on the back of a policeman, my hands on his shoulders, jumping up. So yeah, I enjoyed myself, it's fair to say.
I think the little mini cheer from Rangers fans at the save was one of my highlights of the match this year, and like that little kind of, it wasn't even that big, but just that cheer was like the only time they cheered pretty much the whole match.
Very
It
satisfying.
somehow it actually makes it almost better that Shankland missed and then got the rebound just for them to get a bit of a cheer before a
Yeah.
crushing blow.
I did enjoy that both Hearts and Rangers were singing "You're Getting Sacked in the Morning." A nice bit of unity there.
There can't have been too many
from-
Rangers fans left for that
No, there
song.
wasn't. It was us and the handful that were remaining. We also gave a rendition of "There's Only One Russell Martin," but funny enough, Rangers fans didn't join them with that one. But yeah, it was a very enjoyable. I have to say, towards the end of the game, even though they didn't really have much, I was still struggling to watch it just because you could hardly believe we were actually about to win. But when we did, and I celebrated throughout the evening, I enjoyed also in the group chat, John sent a photo of him having a glass of champagne to celebrate. And if you can't have a glass of champagne for Hearts being ranged at Ibrox, when can you, quite frankly? He has a lot to celebrate. I also just want to say congratulations to John, who bought a house this week, so well done to him on getting a mortgage. How's he all getting on with that, by the way?
Well, turns out he bought the house last Friday and made an offer 9 weeks ago, but on what day was it? On Tuesday, basically on Tuesday I was invited round. So John was living with his mum.
Mhm.
So we have the same dad, different mum. Our mums have the exact same name, so it gets pretty confusing in our family. But John had invited me round to him and his mum's house, and then his mum came and picked me up to take me there, and claimed that John's car had broken down in Dalkeith, so she took me out to pick him up, and it turned out we were actually going to John's new house, and he'd kept it all as a big surprise. So it was a really nice moment. I actually felt kind of proud, to see him and his girlfriend getting their first place. And it's really nice. It's a really nice house. They just bought a 65-inch TV as well.
Nice.
So we're gonna go there and watch a couple of games at some point. Although at the moment I'm still hoping to go to as many away games as I can. But occasionally, hopefully, go to John's and watch it on the 65-inch TV.
So a slight digression there, but what a worthy one, I feel. A lot to celebrate then, and I want to just go through the other results before I touch on a couple of things about the game. So Aberdeen and Hibs both drew at home. Aberdeen to Livy, Hibs to Dundee United. Quick wee quiz for you. Which out of Aberdeen and Hibs last won a home game? So which of those two have won a home game more recently out of Aberdeen and Hibs?
Let me think about it.
Take your time.
Obviously, it's not this season, is it? So it must be last season. We're talking league only. I don't know.
Indeed.
Last season,
I think it actually includes everything, to be honest.
I will go for. I'm gonna go for Aberdeen because I think Aberdeen did so badly at the end of last season that I'm supposed to think it's Hibs. So I'm gonna say Aberdeen. Just on that, sorry, just on that. When we're talking about Hibs, again, endless bloody praise for them. The media loving and everything. They're on 6 points after 4 games. Like they've won one game, beat Dundee. That's it. So yeah, it's really frustrating. All that kind of, they're always made out to be some kind of amazing flair team, but still not seeing that much from them so far. But anyway, carry on. So.
They need to start winning their home league games if they're going to have any chance, because last time they won a home league game was in May, and the last time Aberdeen won a home league game was in April. So it's both been, about 5-6 months for them, something like that.
What position are Aberdeen in at the moment?
I think they're bottom, aren't they? I'm
Yeah,
not
that
sure.
can be right, can it?
They are the third biggest team in Scotland, apparently. So
Well,
Yeah.
actually, congratulations to them though for. I know I'm messing up your order, by the way. Sorry, but
Sorry.
congratulations to them for getting off 0 points.
Yeah,
That
I know,
was
fair enough.
really, really good going for them.
So it's just a week of celebrations all round, really, isn't it? John with his new house, us winning at Ibrox, and Aberdeen finally getting a point.
Yeah, well done.
Dundee drew with Motherwell. Falkirk lost to St Mirren. St Mirren's still doing pretty well, actually, I have to say. And of course, the most contentious one was Celtic getting a last-minute penalty to secure the points at Kilmarnock. If you've not watched it, do go and watch it. It's just a load of bollocks, frankly. It hits the ground and then it's sort of deflection and then hits his arm, which isn't an unusual position. But it's just, one of these things that if I don't want to go down that conspiratorial route, right? But we've had so many dodgy decisions against, when it comes to the Old Firm. And we're not obviously the only victims of it due to the fact that Kilmarnock got one. But it just takes you back to those days of Romanov when he was giving both barrels against the SFA, and just moments like that, it channels that energy for me. But yes, let's not get too conspiratorial. We did enough conspiracies last week, so I'll avoid doing that this week. Back to the Hearts game. The one thing that's kind of, we'll come on to injuries in a second, but the one person I want to talk about is Wilson. So we kind of thought he's a player who can still offer us a lot, but he's just really not getting a look in at the moment. He's not going off and out on loan. It's looking unlikely he will do now. I suppose he could still technically go down to a lower league team or something like that, right?
Yeah, championship or something like that, but that doesn't seem like a good option at the moment for him.
Yeah, and he's kind of getting a bit forgotten. Just given that, I mean, part of it's just due to the size of his squad. It's a shame because we wax lyrical about how much we want youth to come through. We want players like him to get a chance, particularly really talented players like him. But he's a victim of the form of Braga and Shankland, quite frankly. What to do with Wilson is a question, Adam. What's your answer?
I mean, first of all, I would say he is only 18, and he started as recently as against Motherwell. I think he'll be in and out of the squad. He's not gonna play tons of matches, but I think he's still got a part to play, and I wouldn't read too much into him not being in the squad against Rangers. I think he'll still feature. I think he's done okay. He's not done amazing when he's played this season, but I don't think I think he will be in and out of the team. I think he's still got a part to play as a kind of coming off the bench. I think we'll see him again quite a few times personally. I don't think he. I think if you're gonna loan him out, it's a hard one when you're loaning out a guy like Wilson. You're not gonna loan him to the Championship when he's already played so many times for us in the first team. I still think we'll see him play quite a few times.
The news this week, I suppose the biggest one, just from a team point of view, was Vargas is now away on loan. I wouldn't be surprised, Adam, if he's had his last game for us.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that we're going to see him again. I think I would be disappointed if this ends with us not getting much of a fee for him. I would be disappointed because he's a young guy playing for Costa Rica. He's a guy that it felt like at one point he was going to make us a decent amount of money. So I still hope we can get some kind of offer for him. I think the fact that he's so far out of our plans is going to work against us in terms of value, and I kind of think he might be one where we cut our losses and let him go in January or end of the season. But it's a real disappointment because there was a point a couple of years ago when he was scoring a few goals and I thought he was going to do brilliant for us, and it just hasn't worked. And he hasn't even featured at all this season, so he clearly is just so far gone from the picture. But for me, it's a disappointing one that at one point I really thought he was going to turn it differently. But I think it's been clear for a while he's just not been fancied. because I still would have kind of liked to see McInnes, to see him in a McInnes squad. But I guess, I think the timing's not right. I think he was already probably on his way out before McInnes came in.
I think a lot of people would have probably had him down for, if you're making predictions for the 24-25 season, you'd have probably put him top of your list of expectation for most improved player. But that last season was just, was a nightmare for us all round. But I think it really showed where his weaknesses lie. Because Shankland, yes, obviously he's playing poor. But say, look now, with Shankland playing poor, you'd still think Braga could probably step up. Last season, we really needed Vargas to step up, and he just didn't at all. And that was sort of it was a huge issue for the team that we just weren't scoring goals when Shankland wasn't scoring goals and he wasn't able to affect things in any ways. And you just saw Shankland having to be played out of position to try and get things going, sometimes by the management, sometimes by himself. So yeah, he really just, from high expectations to just a very poor season, it didn't go the way we kind of hoped it would do for him. But yeah, I hope, considering how many years he's got left in his contract, we're still able to get a bit for him. Fingers crossed. Injury concerns, we'll touch on them as well. Kent, he's expected to be out for a wee while yet. He's just recently had an operation. It's nothing too serious, but it will keep him out for a few games. Maybe just sticking to four at the back for now then, although McEntee has apparently also picked up a bit of a foot injury. Again, doesn't sound too serious, and I don't think it's going to need an operation or anything like that. He has been sort of facing discomfort in recent weeks. Hopefully it'll come to nothing, but I don't know if he'll be here for the Falkirk game. Hopefully he'll be back for the derby. Lastly, of course, Ajo was injured, hamstring injury. McInnes has said he'll be touch and go for Hibs. He's definitely out for Falkirk. Touch and go in Hearts terms tends to mean we look forward to welcoming him back next season. So that's not the case for him.
I think on the injury note as well, I think seeing Jamie McCart come back, first time he'd played since April, so seeing him come back in a competitive game, good timing, with Kent going out. And I think it says a lot that Kent being injured is not, like, obviously you'd rather he was fit, but it's not like an absolutely devastating blow. And McCart will hopefully come back in and do well. But that was really positive, I thought, to see him come off the bench.
Yeah, and again, I think we said this last week, but McInnes said he was the one he was most impressed with during pre-season. So, yeah, it's not great that Kent has to have his surgery, but I suppose timing-wise, it's okay for us. And speaking of timing-wise, Borchgrevink is now looking very much like he's almost getting back to game time as well. So if McEntee does have to sit out the next one, it does look like Borchgrevink might actually be able to come in for it. So hopefully we'll have a couple of options on the right-hand side now and not have to put McEntee in there. But again, they had a really good game against Rangers, I felt. Made me less concerned for that position, definitely. So the other thing I want to touch on is that Hearts have said that they're changing some of the backroom staff. It's not been made clear which ones are likely to go, but they have kind of outlined where they want to focus it, and they said it's going to focus on the performance staff, particularly relating to work done by sports scientists and medical staff. So that's really kind of to try and help reduce the number of injuries to players. I know this has been an area of contention for Hearts over the past few years, and I think it's really come back to the forefront of our thoughts just with Ajo getting injured in his first game for us, a record-breaking signing. I don't know if that's sped along the process at all, anything like that, but I think this has probably been the pipeline for some time. It just feels like this is part of the Bloom revolution, another strand of it. that we'll see changes not just on the field but behind the scenes as well. Any thoughts on that one, Adam?
Yeah, I'm all for it. As soon as I read about it, just felt like it was. I kind of felt like you did. It was hopefully one of the sort of many Tony Bloom style changes. Any changes we can make are welcome at the moment for the better. So I think, yeah, I can't say I know exactly what's going to happen, but sounds positive to me. So yeah, all for it.
One thing I want to do this week, Adam, with you is have a look at the 2005-2006 squad and then compare it to our current squad. Now, the reason I want to do that is because I've just heard a lot of people talk about how this is our best team since that infamous season. I just want to compare really how that team from the past and which players would likely get a game in this team and vice versa, I suppose. Looking at the Celtic team before we do that, actually, I think it'll be a tougher job to compare the Hearts teams than it will be to compare the Celtic team of that time. I mean, just running through some of the players they had there. The reason I'm mentioning Celtic for this, by the way, is just because obviously they finished first, and I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself here, but if we were ever to try and compete for the Premiership, then Celtic are the team to beat. So the Celtic team of 2005-2006 had players like Artur Boruc, you had Balde, Alan Thompson, Chris Sutton, John Hartson. Who else is in that team? Roy Keane was there. Didier Agat, Neil Lennon, Stylian Petrov, Nakamura, Maloney, and Craig Beattie and Aidan McGiddy as well. So, I mean, to me, what are your thoughts on that Celtic team? That seems like sort of a masterclass of Celtic players in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that Celtic would have had a better team back then. I don't think they're very strong at the moment, but I think they don't need. I think they don't need to be that strong because Rangers have been such a shambles for years. I suppose my biggest worry with Celtic would be if we're challenging by January. That might be when they finally spend a bit of money, and so I'm not. I'm getting carried away with this season in terms of splitting the old firm and that. I'm not at this stage of thinking we're going to finish ahead of Celtic. But there's no doubting, yeah, this team is not one of the better Celtic sides, and it's certainly not going to be as good as 2005, 2006.
Adam, I'm giving you a free golden ticket to get as excited as you want. This section's all about how we're going to run Celtic close to the title.
God, sorry. I misspoke. What I meant to say was Celtic are shit now.
Exactly right.
Used to be good. No, on a serious note, Celtic are not that good, are they? I mean, look at how they did in Europe. Was into a team from Kazakhstan. They are there for the taking. I would say, the only thing I would say is obviously we're still very early doors with Tony Bloom and JTA then now, and I like to keep it up. After the first round of fixtures, if we're still there, there or thereabouts to Celtic, it's going to get very exciting. That's for sure.
I think kind of what my thought process behind this is that we ran Celtic pretty close to the title that season, and the Celtic, to my mind, had a significantly better team back then. Us, I think by end of us, we should probably come away with the feeling that our team isn't probably as good as that team in 2005, 2006, spoiler alert, but it's maybe not so clear cut as the Celtic comparison. So why shouldn't we be running them close come the end of the season? So let's go through that Hearts team then, shall we? Right, so in goals, we had Craig Gordon and Steve Banks. Nowadays we've got Craig Gordon and Shvolov. I suppose they'd be the two main ones you'd be wanting to pick from. I mean, it's kind of a no contest, really. It's Craig Gordon of old, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know Shvolov well enough, that's for sure. And Gordon was obviously brilliant at that point. So yeah, Gordon for sure.
So your next challenge, Adam, is to make a back four. We'll just go for 4-4-2 just to make it simple, right? Out of our current crop, and also Robbie Neilson, Takis Fizas, Stephen Presley, Andy Webster, Jamie McAllister, Christoph Berra, Lee Wallace, Ibby Tal, and Gary Tierney. So take some time and try and figure out a back four with that lot and our back. Try and make the best back four you possibly can out of that.
Just trying to find a way to put in more players from the current team.
And it's difficult, isn't it?
From squad depth, there was nothing that time, right? That's my main point. From backup players, we had nothing before, and now we've got much, much better. Just in terms of some of the starting lineup, it's pretty hard. It's hard to drop some of these guys. Even like Neilson, I mean, we don't even know at the moment who would be in right back for the current team. That's the problem, and he was obviously not one of the strongest. I mean, there's an argument for having Halkett in there. I mean, I think Fisas of 2005, 2006, he'd won the Euros with Greece.
Oh, he's straight in there,
and he
right?
was just,
He's
like absolute class. So Fisas obviously has to be there.
Yeah.
The problem with right back is Robbie Neilson was kind of steady, not spectacular. We don't know with Borchgrevink, we don't know what he's going to turn out like. Neilson would not have been one of the strongest players back there, back at that point. I don't think we've quite established a right back this season who we know is going to be better yet. Presley and Webster brilliant together. I think you could have an argument for having someone like Craig Halkett in there. I mean, Presley was a great leader, maybe not a great player. I could see Halkett maybe slotting in. Webster was very good, still pretty young at that point. So you could maybe argue for Halkett. What about you? Would you have anyone in the back four?
My thinking is exactly the same as yours, really. So, you know what? I'll put Borchgrevink ahead of Robbie Neilson. Why not?
What the
I'm
hell?
going to
Robbie
take a
Neilson played
total.
about 5,000 times for Hearts, and Borchgrevink
You
he's
know
played
what?
about twice. It's knocked them out. Oh wow! I didn't know
Just
you were a Neilson hater. Were you
no,
flying the
not at all.
helicopter? Flying the helicopter above Tynecastle.
I
Oh
was listening
Jesus!
to BBC
Neilson.
Sports. What I tried to link you to earlier. Robbie Neilson was telling a good story about how him and Craig Gordon had a punch up at go-karting because basically Robbie Neilson, inverted commas, accidentally cut him up whilst they're doing go-karting because Craig Gordon's like super competitive. He stormed up to him, threw his helmet right at him, and Robbie Neilson's like, "Oh well, clearly got to do something here." So he just swung a punch at him, and Craig Gordon obviously swung a punch back at him, and it's turned into a bit of a scuffle before it was broken up. But they all had a laugh afterwards. But I was just enjoying that story. Not sure my money would be on it actually.
Gordon or Neilson?
Yeah.
I've got to go for Gordon.
Yeah, he's got a long reach, right? So
He's pretty tall, yeah.
So I mean, it's a ballsy call, right? Borchgrevink has had a fairly.
Robbie Neilson was going to be our next guest. That has now been indefinitely postponed after that.
But I just feel we need to have some controversy with this lineup, and I don't want it to be too much the class of 2005, 2006. So move into the midfield then, before we kind of cover what our final outlook would be. You've got, so it's not an easy one for the current crop again. Hartley, Scatchell, Brellier, Chesnauskas, Mikulinas, Simmons, Camazola, and McFarlane.
got to be Simmons and McFarlane starting.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going for the obvious choices.
Camazola as well. Actually, I'd go for
Mm-hmm.
Camazola, maybe coming off the bench. No, it's obviously Vidic goes straight in there. Hartley goes
Mm-hmm.
straight in there.
Yeah.
I think you could make an argument. Early days yet, you could make an argument for Kizaridis.
Mm-hmm.
I think guys like Miko and Chesney had moments of brilliance, pretty inconsistent. Hopefully Twinter's not listening to that because I know. I mean, Miko and Chesney did great stuff, but they
They
weren't
did.
the most consistent players. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Kizaridis is one who has the potential to come into that team. I could see him. I actually could see Kizaridis doing great with alongside those kind of players like Hartley, Scatcho, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Kizaridis for me, and then I could even see Benny. Yeah,
Yeah.
Benny.
It's,
Yeah, I could find a place for Benny maybe as well.
mm-hmm.
I mean, Burley was obviously was very popular. But I could see Benny, to be honest. It's
It's
hard to see
difficult.
him playing on the George Burley team, and that kind of
Yeah.
style, because it was a bit more. The style was so different, but quality-wise, I think Benny has the ability to be in the team. I'm not sure he could fit quite alongside those players, but I think there's an argument for Benny.
It's difficult because if you're making it 4-4-2,
Yeah,
then it really limits your options. So let's rescind that. It doesn't have to be a 4 in the middle, but I mean, that's by far our strongest field. You've
yeah.
got we've not even got into Joe, which you'd have to assume he's
God, sorry,
that's.
yeah. God, I wasn't even thinking of a record signing.
But I mean, there's not much to go in there, so you can't, in all
Yeah,
good faith, put him in there. You can't do what I've just done with Borchgrevink and Neilson, but yeah, it's by far our strongest when you compare
yeah,
the current crop and the crop.
of
It's
course, yeah.
two very different midfields actually in many
Yeah.
ways. But yeah, when we come to the end, that'll be an interesting one to try and put together. Up front, then you've got Callum Elliott, Jankowskis, Pospisil, Bednar, Mole,
Just to
and
be clear, I put together a list from London Hearts, which includes guys who made any appearances. So
right,
you've got Hjalmar, who was the Icelandic guy who
Gelmar.
scored
Yes.
against Motherwell in the League Cup. I was at that game. We lost at Easter Road. One of our many League Cup nightmares. But anyway, so guys,
Mm.
obviously, him and Jamie Mole were teenagers and played like once or twice. Um, what's this? Callum Elliott had the most appearances of our forwards, which is
That's
really it's hard to.
insane.
I mean,
That's
it's
actually
hard to
insane.
remember that Elliott was seen as a really promising player at one point.
Yeah, that's
It was
true.
that kind of loan to Motherwell was kind of the end of him. But yeah, I think maybe obviously Bednar got injured very early on against Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Jankowskis and Bednar would be obviously from the 2005, 2006 team if you're looking at ability. I think, I mean Shankland. I've got to start Shankland
Mm-hmm.
because he's by far the most prolific of. I mean, I think I'm going Shankland and Jankowskis
Oh, not
because
Bednar not even get a look in. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Jankowskis had won the Champions League not long
Yeah.
before. Was it Champions League he'd won, or was it? I can't remember. At Porto was it not the Champions League? He was on
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
bench.
thought it was Champions League. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
it was. Yeah. For me, Jankowskis was absolute class and
Mm.
Jankowskis was the best player out of that lot just for a season, and like he was kind of coming. I think after 2005, 2006, he kind of chucked it a little bit. But I'm going Shankland and Jankowskis because I think Shankland would be the one scoring absolutely tons of goals, and Jankowskis would be like his quality would be setting up Shankland. So that's my shout for up
Yeah.
front, and then having like Braga, Bednar, Pospisil as backup, or you put three up front for some of them,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think Shankland and Jankowskis. What about you?
One of the more interesting debates for me that has gone through my head was, picking Bednar over Shankland and vice versa. And if on the face of it, if you're just thinking about who is the better player, just raw talent and everything, I suppose you'd perhaps put Bednar there just throughout his career. Let's not forget he got to play in the Premiership. At no point is Shankland ever looked likely to play in the Premiership. But just for what Shankland's done at Hearts is just so far and above pretty much almost what any player that we've mentioned has been able to do, at least from a goal scoring point of view, but also from assists as well. I suppose also the other thing I want to think about, I kind of went on a bit of a deep dive about what wages players back in the 2005-2006 days are getting. Again, there's no official figures, but there's rumours that some of the high earners, so people like Bednar would probably be getting around 15, 16 sort of starting basic per week, and then getting up to around 30,000 occasions with bonuses, the Vlad bonuses.
Jesus.
Yeah. Apparently, it's going up to that. I mean, again, this is hearsay. This is rumors, and it's taken from bits of articles and so forth. I kind of went through.
Didn't Gordon get an absolutely massive salary
He
because
got
we knew we were going to
huge
sell him
amount.
obviously?
Again, the rumor was it's around like 25k a week, and again, I don't know how much truth there is in that. But again, these are rumors. But again, we're nowhere close to that with our current figures. So I do appreciate what we could attract back then is really significant with the wages we were able to pay. I say we were able to pay, that we were paying. I don't know whether we're actually able to pay it or not. But yeah, so it's a difficult one who I'd pick up front, but I think the two you've picked are a solid ones. I loved Bednar. I thought he was just such a good finisher. And can you imagine Bednar in this current team? Like,
No,
is
Bednar
that
would
not
be
the
brilliant,
most?
of course.
He would be
Yeah.
he's the most McInnes player that we've ever had, pretty much. Just huge bastard of a guy, so quick and just able to finish. I mean, it wasn't the speediest of players, but just for the size he was. So, I mean, I'll give you some time now, Adam. Just take a moment, pick the squad you think you'd most like to play out of old and new, and rattle them out. Whilst Adam is thinking, I'll talk a little bit about Celtic as well and Rangers. I think a lot was made out of Aberdeen's cup win, papering over the cracks at Aberdeen, and that is true. But that's almost kind of overshadowed the fact that not much has been made out of Celtic missing out in silverware to a really, actually very poor Aberdeen team. Rangers at the moment still look just like a mess, basically. Things probably will improve for them when they eventually do pull the trigger on Martin, which I think they probably will do in not too distant future. And also, if they get whatever's going on with Raskin, once he starts playing again, I can easily see them picking up some results and picking up some form. I think the most important part is, though, just to continue clocking up points whilst other teams are struggling. And, looking at the Celtic result the other day, they looked full on, just a definite shoo-in for getting the draw until they got a decision their way. They just don't look a particularly strong team at the moment. Hibs, again, I think the media are flattering to deceive them, quite honestly. St Mirren are one that I think could really have a really good season. I remember trying to mention that early on, and I think he's spot on. St Mirren just they've steadily been just improving under Robinson. It's not exactly been under the radar, but just the continual improvement he's given to that team really is impressive. And him and McInnes are just two of the guys who really are just so well versed in getting results in the Premiership. So if you want to sort of look at teams outside the old firm who are going to battle us for third place, I would actually put St Mirren ahead of Hibs. That's my bold prediction. Adam, how are you getting on?
Well, we're looking at a team starting 11 mainly full of 2005, 2006 players. A
Yeah, I
bench
mean, it's to be
almost
expected.
mainly full of I think the main point by far is the starting 11, 2005, 2006, certainly better, cost a lot more money,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look beyond the sort of core kind of 14, 15 players, there's really very, very little. You've got, guys like Wallace and Berra coming through as youngsters, still very young, and there's almost nothing in backup. When you've got Simmons, Elliott, and all this, I just don't think there's any depth whatsoever in the 2005, 2006 squad. Like, there's just absolutely nothing. I mean, Jamie McAllister. I mean, what? Did you mention him earlier? Yeah, Jamie
I think I
McAllister.
touched them, but
He
yeah.
played a decent amount of games, and yeah, that's what I mean. Like when Jamie McAllister's playing a lot in that squad, that's when you realise the quality of the squad.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. I mean, maybe can we make it a 4-3-3 just to make
Go
this
for it.
slightly easier?
Could even go for the classic Football Manager Christmas tree formation.
I'm not finding a way to make this into an actual formation.
Shoehorn it as much as you want.
I don't see any way to get rid of Neilson from the team either. That's the problem.
Would you go for a controversial, what we did against Rangers, and put Milne on the wing so you could have both Milne
I'm
and
thinking
Fizas?
Fisas up in right wing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Why not?
Nah, I'm joking. Yeah, Moon at right wing, that could work.
Mm-hmm. I'm just throwing it amongst the pigeons there, yeah.
Okay, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm just gonna go on Gordon, Neilson, Presley, Webster, Fisas.
Fine.
Really,
Look, it's a strong backline, right?
Really,
So
Hartley, Scatcho, and then Jankowski, Shankland, Bednar. It's not really a formation. But when you're looking at Webster Halkett, Webster got a lot of caps for Scotland, and him and Presley had a brilliant partnership. Halkett's a really solid option, but I can't break up Presley and Webster.
yeah, they were a good
Are
pairing.
you finding a way to make this a little bit less dominated than I am by the 2000 to make this a little bit more interesting? I know we're a very controversial and argumentative podcast, so
Yeah.
and we support mental health whilst being controversial.
Indeed.
So are you finding a way to make it slightly more interesting than my one?
Not especially, no.
Oh, the Borchgrevink.
So yeah, I tried to make mine a bit less 2005, 2006 heavy. I didn't really succeed, but to be honest, like I said, you touched on yourself. Actually, went to great lengths to point out that we do have a great deal more depth now, and at least there's positions that you're thinking about, and you are having to think about. Right, there's some really good players in their squad that I'd really like to get in there. So, like I say, it's not whilst it's not up to level. There's still sort of parts of this team that you do think could get a run in there and at least be in the same conversation as that 2005 2006 team. So in goals, yeah, we've got Gordon. Back four, I've gone for Fizas, Halkett, Presley, and Borchgrevink. I've put Rudy out on the wing because why not? He played left back at was it Southampton, right? And then in midfield, I've gone for Benny and Hartley. Right wing, I've gone for Milne because he plays really well there now, right? And then up front, we've got Jankowskis and Shankland. Like I say, I had a tough one with Ben because I absolutely loved him at the time. And I just think he was an absolute quality player. But at the same time, you just can't overlook, first of all, how good Jankowskis was, and also just how good Shankland is for us. So that was my attempt to, try and have a bit of both teams in there. But yeah, final thoughts on 2005, 2006 versus current squad?
Just that the drop off in quality from the starting 11 is staggering in 2005, 2006. When just like I'm just gonna quickly run through something, okay, just to show you. It's nothing really against some of the youngsters, but Like if we're looking at 2006, you've got 34 appearances, Callum Elliott, 21 Jamie McAllister, 13 appearances, Stephen Simmons. You know, like these guys, you know, and you got to remember back then, you had what, fewer subs, didn't you? You're bringing on like a small number of subs, 3 subs or whatever. You're not bringing on like endless people. The squad depth was just severely lacking. And even then, you had guys like Tal, who wasn't getting a game at all at that point. So the quality in terms of who we had on the bench as backup and guys like Jamie McAllister and that starting, there was absolutely no depth. And I think unless we properly strengthened in January, you know, I think that the starting lineup was good enough to win the league, but the backup is miles worse than what we've got on the bench now, is what I'd say.
So no game to cover this weekend, unfortunately, as we're not in the League Cup. However, we're really looking forward to welcoming on a guest, Davey. He's a Hearts fan, and he's going to come on and talk about grief and how Hearts have helped in his grief journey. We're really looking forward to talking to Davey, and we know it's going to be an excellent episode, so please do join us for that. As always, do follow us on our social media channels. On X, it's Hearts and Sleeves Podcast, as it is on Blue Sky. We've also got our Instagram channel up and running now, so do follow that, Hearts and Sleeves Podcast, over there. We've also got our YouTube as well, so please do subscribe on that, and do subscribe on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Otherwise, we really look forward to speaking to you next week. Enjoy your weekend, even though it will be free of Hearts, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.